Welcome to Wages and Words. Myself, Mario Herron. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and tell your mom and force your mom to subscribe. But we got some fights this weekend in UFC Paris. But before we get into any of that, I want to talk about this recent statement of Usman saying that his resume is as good as Ilia Topuria's is. I want to get into that really quickly because it came across my timeline, and there's just like this one of the most insane statements you'll ever see in the UFC. Ilya's run, if he retired today, he would be a Hall of Fame fighter. No question about it. Two of the greatest fighters in the featherweight history, he made easy work of. He knocked the hell out. Volk, it looked like he's never been a champion before in that octagon. Max Holloway went 3 fights with Volkanovski, and Volk was never even able to, knock him out or get him down. And that was a pure boxing match where he just outschooled him. It seemed like Max Holloway could get punched by Thor and he would still stay up. Well, he got punched by Thor, aka Ilya, and he goes down. Then he goes up the division, goes into lightweight, faces Charles Oliveira, who had an exceptional run as a champion of the lightweight division, who, you make your judgment if he should have lost to Arman, or make your judgment if how close he is to Islam before Islam gave up the belt. What does he do? He makes light work of him. That's already 3 fighters that he knocks out that are future Hall of Fame fighters and some of the best talents we have on roster in the Ultimate Fighter Championship, excuse me. And then now you have a guy that's not even in there yet and won't go into the UFC because he doesn't want to mess up with the reign that's currently happening with Islam. And he's like, no, I'm going to wait a minute. And then, I think they're saying he's 27. By 28, he's going to be in the UFC. Come on now. I know you got to sell your name and you got to sell how talented you are and you got to promote, your likableness and you got to make sure you come into there with a fire under you. Look, you're going to come in there with a fire under you no matter what because of who you train with and because Khabib's your cousin and the hype that's coming into you. But also remember, these guys that have came into the UFC over and over again, we've seen them have slow starts. It's happened all the time. Pitbull, we talked about plenty of times on this program. He had a slow start coming into the UFC. Chandler had a slow start coming into the UFC. Umar comes right in and faces Merab, and, it looked like for a little bit he had him, and the next thing you know, Merab has him. You can't compare yourself against a guy that's undefeated, could retire today, and he's one of the best we've ever seen, and he's currently the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. You simply just can't compare it. Especially when you're at this point where the guy that's the reason why you're not joining the UFC yet is not fighting him because he just moved up in weight and he's going to fight Jack. And if he beats Jack, then, we'll see what happens. I really don't know how that's going to work really. But if you want to make the argument that he's dunking Ilya, you could make it. And guess what? Ilya's making that argument. Hard to compare resumes when all that's going on. And Usman, dude, just wait until you're there. Because obviously you dominated Bellator. You've dominated all the, fighting regimes that you've gone to. But you haven't been in the big dog yet. And the UFC is different. That talent is different. The experience, how fast guys are, the fight IQ, it's all different. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. When Merab first got in the UFC, he lost his first 2 fights. Now he's a champion. Just saying, before you kind of bark with the big dogs, make sure you rule over the puppies. That's all I'm going to say with that guy. But wanted to point that out real quickly. Also because I'm a diehard Ilya fan and we support that guy. Take a bullet for him. Not really, but, maybe on a rough day. But anyways, you have UFC Paris that is this weekend. Just a quick rundown of kind of the fights that are going on and what's kind of expect. It's a very earlier card. You have to be up until 4 in the morning to watch this one. It is at 3 p.m. Eastern, so that's going to be really nice. Can actually enjoy it. Maybe put some college football on another TV as well. That's a good Saturday, dude. Get a little riled up, man. So I'll start with just 3 fights I want to dive into. Paul Craig fights again. We know this guy over and out. I mean, we've seen him in this UFC multiple times fighting some of the best, but he's 17-9. 4 wins by KO, 13 submissions, 11 first-round finishes, 1.47 takedown average. Has a rough go of lately. Caio, that's what we're going to talk about later, KO'd him, and then Bo Nickel beat him by decision. Kind of a rough fight for both those moments for him, but he faces a guy now that's a really, really tough go for him. He fights Modestas, who Modestas has got a lot of hype around him. 8-6, 10 wins by KO, 7 first round finishes himself. In just over a year, he's had 3 straight wins. And I mean, he puts a lot of damage on you. He can hurt you on the stand up very, very well. But it is the classic argument and is the classic fight of a grappler versus a striker. And in this way, I'm going to go ahead and go with the guy that the reach is about the same too. So it's not like he can just stand out and kind of pinpoint him and Craig doesn't have to break the distance and go inside and kind of take a couple. No, it's the same for both. When the grapplers are more experienced, when the grapplers face guys that are a lot scarier, it has been with the cream of the crop in the division, I'm going to take it to go to the ground. I'm going to take Craig to kind of control the fight. He knows how to control it. He's been this spot 1,000 times before. And the takedown for percentage of his opponent's not bad at 77%, but Craig's also at plus 270. I think we're kind of overlooking how talented he really is. And for that reason, I'm taking Paul Craig for the upset. So, Craig, don't let me down, okay? If you get it right, I'm going to name my first kid Craig. All right, then we have St. Dennis versus Ruffy. Ruffy, if you don't remember him, spinning kick. I mean, this guy is a freaking fighter. He's freaking nuts. He's on a 7-fight win streak in the UFC alone. 2 of his 3 wins were by knockout. If he touches you, you're going down. Lights out, going to sleep. Here's your bedtime story. He's insanely dangerous in so many different ways. It's going to be really, really important for Saint not to get caught. But what does he like to do? He loves to brawl. And he's had tough losses against Dustin Poirier where he kind of put it on the line. Dustin did. And went against a guy that was kind of aspiring up the ranks. Dustin takes care of him. Money Moicano takes care of him. I think Ruffy's going to take care of him too. I think he's going to take care of him by knockout. So that's what I would think how that fight ends. Ruffy KOs him, go to sleep. We move on. Now we have a very, very interesting fight for the middleweight division. So many different thoughts of, who should get the next title shot versus Khamzat. This could very much well be the next stepping stone. This could very much be you're looking at the guy that's going to take on the champ next. I think it should go to him. I know RDR is in there, and he has a fight coming up too, which I'm blanking on who he's fighting up against. I'll pull that up in a second. But I think these guys, when you have a guy that's number 2 in the world, and he's fighting a guy that's number 7 in the world who's just crushing up the rankings and who is just taking care of everyone left and right. And every time he steps in an octagon, it's looking like it's JV versus varsity out there. How can you kind of say no to either of these guys getting a chance at the world title? Hard not to, right? But RDR, who's currently right now 4th in the rankings for the middleweight division, I don't know. We shall see. I think the winner of this, if they don't get the title shot, they get RDR. Or maybe DDP as he tries and gets back to the mountain. But you have Nasruddin versus Caio in this fight, middleweight division, like I've said. Now, Caio, 14-fight win streak, 5 wins by KO, 4 wins by submissions. He's very, very balanced. He's a fighting nerd. Get out the glasses, get out the school book. And he faces a guy, Nasruddin, who's fought on everyone. And kind of interesting story with him, too, because he's literally kind of went from not down in the dumps, but he loses to Strickland back in 2003. And when Strickland goes on his little tear, and you kind of go, okay, after you kind of lose to a championship opponent, there's 2 things that kind of happen to you, right? You kind of just slip and fall from the division, and you just keep going lower, lower, and lower. You kind of see that with Robert Whittaker, what's happening to him now, where he was this championship fighter, but he's had some couple bad beats, couple losses. Now what's going to happen to him? Is he going to continue to slip, or is he going to have kind of like this second resurgence? Well, Nasruddin has this kind of second resurgence, right? He now wins 4 in a row. Then he wins which I thought, maybe as a fan, I thought Israel Adesanya was going to be able to take care of him. Quite opposite, actually. He takes care of Israel Adesanya, and he knocks him out. And then he's sitting there at the number 2 ranked fighter in the world. Strickland's behind him, but Strickland gets embarrassed 2 times against TDP, so he falls short. And by the way, he's active this whole time as he's the number 2 ranked fighter. And so now he gets Caio, who Caio just got kind of like his real, I don't know if it was called a real test, but he does get it when he faces Jared. He beats Jared, and it kind of just cements himself as, hey, I'm not just like this guy that's easy to promote in the UFC and very likable and have the sunglasses. I have the glasses, and it's the fighting nerds, and everyone's like, woo, like good stuff. Here, they take pride in being a nerd, yada yada yada. Likable, marketable, money's coming in. But I'm a serious guy, and I can be dangerous. So he then gets this guy, and he's kind of doing a company man fight, I would say here. He's saying, yeah, Dana, I'll give this guy that's moving up the ranks and on the come up, I'll give him a chance to face the cream of the crop. And if he does beat me, then that, sends him up the ladder, right, of what should happen next. Probably similar to what Whittaker did with RDR, similar to what honestly is going to happen next with Gaethje and maybe like a Patty, right? Like if Patty beats him, Patty's probably going to ascend and probably get a title shot next. But besides the point, how do you bet this fight? Which way do you kind of go? It's tough because I think on paper, both these guys are really, really balanced and they're very equal in a way. Without even looking at odds, I really do lean Caio just because it's just every fight I've seen from him, I've never seen him down and out. I think his conditioning is very, very well, and I think he's can kind of take you out in so many different ways. And I love to bet on a guy when his conditioning's great. Conditioning is so freaking important in the fight game. It's insane. If your conditioning's not there, you're gonna fall apart. That was a big thing with McGregor when he's on his run. It was just survive the first round with McGregor, just survive the second round with McGregor, and like you're gonna be able to get him right because he's all about just the momentum and living off the audience in those first couple of rounds and is going to give you everything he can. He's just not built for long distance. Why is Merab so dangerous now? Because that guy can go run freaking 5 miles after he just finished the freaking fight. So that's something I like to keep in mind. But then there's another factors that come into this, right? Nasruddin's fighting in France. He's from France. He's fighting in Paris, his hometown. You really think the guy that just got lost to Sean Strickland and just got his name all the way back up to a chance at fighting for the belt is now going to fall to the up-and-comer at home in front of his fans, from his family, where he's going to have the most support he'll ever get? I really don't think so. That's where I kind of go, okay, I'm leaning the other way. And then when I look at the money-wise and look at just who's favored, and then he's at plus money, I'm getting pretty good return on my investment. Not pretty good, but, it's better than you get on Caio. That's why I'm going to take Nasruddin to win this fight. I don't say it with confidence, but it's the way I would bet it. It's the way I would look at it. Could Caio knock him out? Absolutely. Could Caio just put on a hell of a performance to dance around him? Maybe. It could happen. But with a guy that's fighting at home, with a guy that's beat Israel Adesanya, who's one of the best middleweight fighters we've ever seen, and he's 16-4 and he's won 4 in a row, I'm going to go ahead and take the fighter at home. I'm going to go and take the guy that's on a hot streak, not as hot as his opponent, but still. So that's where I leaned in that one. Got beat up the last time I did betting in the UFC, but hey, what are you going to do? Wages and Warriors with myself, Mario Herron. Like, share, and subscribe. If you love it, subscribe. If you hate it, I don't really care. But make sure your mom subscribes to it because that's the most important thing. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next time.